Hello, Jay here. Welcome to Beginning Drums Chapter 15. All right, we're going to start off with some rhythms and rudiments today. Let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, we're still exploring our eighth note triplets. We have them mixed in with all of our quarter notes, eighth notes, and all the different rests we've hit so far. Okay, for number one, we're going to start off bar one with eighth notes on beat one, quarter note rest on beat two, quarter notes on beat three and four. Bar two is going to be all beats, eighth note triplet. Bar three is going to have a half note rest for beats one and two. We have a quarter note on beat three, quarter note rest on beat four. Bar four is going to have an eighth note triplet on beat one, a quarter note on beat two, eighth notes on beat three, and then a quarter note on beat four. Okay, here comes number one. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and rest, 3, 4. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, rest, 2, 3, 4. 1 triplet, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, I'll just be doing these one time, but I recommend repeat each of these 4 to 8 times and try some different tempos, slow, medium, and fast. Okay, take a look at number two. This one's going to start off with an eighth note triplet on beat one, a quarter note on beat two, and then similar concept, eighth note triplet on beat three, and a quarter note on beat four. Bar two starts off with a quarter note on beat one. We have eighth note triplets on beats two and three, and a quarter note rest on beat four. Bar three has quarter notes on beats one and two, an eighth note triplet on beat three, and eighth notes on beat four. And then bar four is a whole note rest where we won't play anything. Here comes number two. 1, 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2, 3 triplet, 4, 1, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, rest, 1, 2, 3 triplet, 4, and rest, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's take a look at number three. For number three, we're going to start off with a quarter note rest on beat one, and we have eighth notes for beats 2, 3, and 4. Bar two starts with a quarter note on beat one, a quarter note rest on beat two, eighth note triplets on beats 3 and 4. Bar three starts with a quarter note on beat one, eighth note triplet on beat two, quarter note rest on beat three, and a quarter note on beat four. And then the fourth bar is all going to have an eighth note rest on the downbeat, and we'll hit all the ands of the beats. Okay, here comes number three. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and rest, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, rest, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1, 2 triplet, rest, 4, rest, and rest, and rest, and rest, and. I'm going to do 3 just a little faster. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and rest, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, rest, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1, 2 triplet, rest, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll always have challenges when you push your tempos, but always start off slow. Make sure you got it. Okay, let's take a look at number 4. This one's going to start off with eighth notes on beat one. On beat two, we'll have an eighth note rest on the downbeat, and we'll hit the end of that beat. And then there's a half note rest for beats 3 and 4. Bar two is going to have eighth note triplets for beats 1, 2, and 3, with a quarter note rest on beat 4. Bar three starts with a quarter note on beat one. On beat two, we'll have an eighth note rest on the downbeat. We'll hit the end of that beat. Beat three is eighth notes. Beat four is a quarter note. Bar four is going to have a eighth note triplet on beat one, a quarter note rest on beat two, eighth notes on beat three, and then a quarter note triplet on beat four. Okay, here comes number 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and rest, rest. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, rest. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1 triplet, rest. 3 and 4 triplet. Okay, let's take a look at number 5. Number 5 is going to start off with an eighth note rest on the downbeat of 1. We'll hit the end of that beat. Quarter note on beat 2. 3 is going to have an eighth note rest on the downbeat. We'll hit the end of that beat. And then beat 4 is an eighth note triplet. Bar 2 is a whole note rest. We won't play anything. On bar 3, it starts with a quarter note rest on beat 1, eighth note triplet on beat 2, quarter note rest on beat 3, and then a quarter note on beat 4. Bar 4 is going to start with a quarter note rest on beat 1. We have eighth notes on beat 2, an eighth note triplet on beat 3, and then a quarter note rest on beat 4. Okay, here comes number 5. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4 triplet, rest, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 triplet, rest, 4, 1, 2, and 3 triplet, rest. Okay, let's take a look at number 6. For this one, we're going to start off with an eighth note triplet on beat 1. On beat 2, we'll have an eighth note rest on the downbeat. We'll hit the end of that beat, and then eighth note triplets for beats 3 and 4. Bar 2 starts with an eighth note triplet on beat 1. We have a quarter note rest on beat 2, and then eighth note triplets for beats 3 and 4. Bar 3 starts with a half note rest for the first 2 beats, and then we have eighth note triplets on beats 3 and 4. Bar 4 starts with a eighth note rest on the downbeat of 1. We'll hit the end of that beat, eighth note triplet on beat 2, and then quarter note rest on beat 3 with a quarter note on beat 4. Here comes number 6. 1, 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet rest, and 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet rest, 3 triplet, 4 triplet rest, 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet rest, and 2 triplet rest, 4. Always want to point out, keep rotating your sticks. Try to get in a good balance of both sticks. Okay, let's take a look at number 7. This one's going to start off with a quarter note on beat 1. We're going to have an eighth note rest on the downbeat of 2. We'll hit the end of 2. Similar concept for beat 3. Eighth note rest on the downbeat. We'll hit the end of that beat, and then we'll have a quarter note on beat 4. For bar 2, on beats 1 and 2, we'll have eighth note rest on the downbeat. We'll hit the ends of those beats, and then we have quarter notes on beats 3 and 4. On bar 3, we have an eighth note triplet for beat 1. On beats 2 and 3, we'll have eighth note rest on the downbeat. We'll hit the ends of those beats, and then an eighth note triplet on beat 4. And then the fourth bar is a whole note rest where we won't play anything. Here comes number 7. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, rest, and 3, and 4. 1, and 2, and 3, 4. 1 triplet rest, and 4 triplet rest, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's take it to the last one, number 8. For this one, it's going to be a little sparse. There's going to be a lot of resting for this one. So take a look at bar 1. We're going to have a half note rest for beats 1 and 2, quarter note rest for beat 3. On beat 4, we'll have an eighth note rest on the downbeat, and we'll hit the end of that beat. Going to bar 2, we'll have that eighth note rest on the downbeat of 1, and we'll hit the end of that beat. Quarter note rest on beat 2, and then a half note rest for beat 3 and 4. Okay, for bar 3, we start off with an eighth note triplet on beat 1. We have quarter note rest on beats 2 and 3 with the quarter note on beat 4. On bar 4, there'll be a quarter note rest on beat 1, eighth note triplet on beat 2, and then a half note rest for beat 3 and 4. Okay, here comes number 8. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, and rest, 3, 4. 1 triplet, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 triplet, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to play number 8 a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, and 2, 3, 4. 1 triplet, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 triplet, 3, 4. Okay, so always challenges when you push those tempos. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the rudiments. Today we're going to learn the single stroke 4, and think of it like 4 singles, usually as a triplet, followed by an eighth note. Okay, so the way this is going to sound, if we do a 16th note triplet and then an eighth note, it will sound like this. So it's kind of like a, let's say if it's on beat 1, 1 triplet and, we can count it that way, but that's sort of the sound. Okay, let's go ahead and build into it. We're going to start off in 3/4, and we're just going to be doing singles. So for the first bar, we'll go right, left, right, and then bar 2 is just going to have a left, and then we'll rest for 2 beats. So it'll be like a 1, 2, 3, 1, rest, rest, and then we'll flip our sticks. Okay, here comes number 1, and I'll count it in 3. 1, 2, 3. Right, left, rest, rest, left, right, rest, rest. Okay, now we're going to turn we're going to make an 8th note triplet. We're building into a 16th note triplet, but let's start off with an 8th note triplet. Okay, for number 2, it's going to sound like this. 1 triplet, 2, rest, rest. So we're in 2/4 now, 2 beats per bar, and we're going to have an 8th note triplet into a quarter note, and they're all singles, so it'll be a right, left, rest, rest, and then we'll flip our sticks. Okay, here comes number 2. 1, 2. Right, left, rest, rest, left, right, rest again, right, left, rest, rest, left, right, rest, rest. Okay, now we're going to do that same concept but back to back for number 3. So we'll have a right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, and then we'll flip our sticks around. Okay, here comes number 3. 1, 2. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Again, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And you don't have to go right into a repetition switching your sticks. It's perfectly fine just to stop and start over with the other stick. Okay, now let's go ahead and make it into a 16th note triplet to an 8th note. So it's going to sound like this. 1 triplet and rest. 1 triplet and rest. Okay, here comes number 4. 1, 2, right, left, right, left, rest. Left, right, left, right, rest. Right, left, left, rest. 1 triplet and rest. Okay, there we go. Okay, for number 5, we're just going to go back to back now with our single stroke 4. And I'm going to do right hand lead. I'll just repeat that a couple times and then I'll just stop and go into left hand lead. Okay, here comes number 5. And then we'll push our tempo for fun. 1, da, 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 da. Right, left, 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 right, left. Okay, now here starting with left. 1, da, 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 da. Left, right, 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 left, right. Okay, here's a little faster. 1, 2. Starting with left. 1, 2. All right, welcome to Beats and Fills. This chapter beat's going to have a basic concept for beats 1 and 2, just a bass drum on the downbeat of 1. On beat 3, we're going to have 8th notes in our bass drum. On beat 4, we'll have a bass drum on the and of 4. All right, let's take a look at beat number 1. This is the quarter note version. So we'll start off basic with our bass drum and hi-hat on the downbeat of 1, snare and hi-hat on the downbeat of 2. On beat 3, we're going to do 8th notes in our bass drum, so we'll hit the first note on the downbeat with our hi-hat, 8th note on the and of 3, all bass drum by itself. On the downbeat of 4, we'll hit our snare and hi-hat together, and then a bass drum by itself on the and of 4. Here's beat number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, beat number 2 is going to be the 8th note version of that same beat. So beats 1 and 2 are basic. That's going to have our downbeat on 1 with our bass drum and hi-hat together. Hi-hat by itself on the and. Beat 2 is snare and hi-hat together. Hi-hat on the and of 2. On beat 3, we'll hit all these 8th notes both with our bass drum and our hi-hat. 3 and. For beat 4, we'll hit our snare on the downbeat with our hi-hat. And then bass drum with our hi-hat on the and of 4. Here's beat number 2. 3 and 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. for beat number 3, we're going to do the 16th note version of this beat. Here's how we count our 16th notes. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Okay, the first 2 beats are basic. So on beat 1, hit your bass drum on the downbeat. 1 E and. On beat 2, we have our snare. 2 E and. Okay, now we're going to have 8th notes in our bass drum for beat 3. So this will sound like this. 3 E and then beat 4 is going to have that bass drum on the and of 4. So starting with our snare on the downbeat, 4 E and. Okay, here's beat number 3. 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. All right, let's do some fills. Concept here, I'm going to give you 4 different examples. We'll do the first one, all snare. We're going to take that same rhythm, put it on the drum set somewhere for part 2, and then part 3 is where you'll make up your own drum fill and write it in on the staff. Okay, let's take a look at number 1. This one's going to start off with a quarter note rest on beat 1, and then we'll do 8th note triplets for beats 2, 3, and 4, all snare. Okay, I put number 1 up on the drum set. I went after the quarter note rest on beat 1. We're going to put the first 8th note triplet on tom 1. Second 8th note triplet on beat 2 is going to go to tom 2, and then the beat 4 triplet will be on the floor tom. Okay, now it comes time for you to make up your own drum fill. You could have at it, anything you'd like. We're just going to use these specific rhythms. So for number 1, let's say you're going to start off with that quarter note rest, and then you have a triplet on beat 2, 3, and 4. So if you want to play the same drum, let's say if I want to go snare, 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 crack, 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 I'll just put in an 8th note triplet on the second to top space, and that's my snare. Straight lines up, and then a straight flag across the top with a 3. That'll make your rhythm look like an 8th note triplet. Okay, let's say if I want to split something up, if I want to go 1, 2 floor, I can make that into my beat 3. I'm just going to separate those drums and connect them. And then on the last beat, let's say if I want to do something creative, I could do crash on the first note, and then I can go to my ride. I would just write a X circled for my crash, and then an X for my ride. Maybe I'll put an R to distinguish it from the hi-hat. And then let's say I go to my tom 2 for the last hit. I would just put in tom 2 on the second to top line, connect them, and that would be my beat 4 triplet right there too. So get into it, have some fun with it, try out some things too. Some things might sound really cool at first. You might want to work on them. You might write it down at first and it sounds good to you in your head, and then might come up with some different ideas, or sometimes you just nail it right from the beginning, and that's always fun too. Okay, for fill number 2, we're going to put an 8th note triplet on beat 1, quarter note rest on beat 2, 8th note triplet on beat 3, and a quarter note rest on beat 4. This is all snare. Okay, the way I arranged this one for the drum set, on beat 1, that triplet's going to be all snare, quarter note rest on beat 2, and then for the 8th note triplet on beat 3, I did a flam on my floor tom, a bass drum, and then another flam on my floor tom, and then that quarter note rest on beat 4. For fill number 3, we're going to have eighth notes on beat 1. For beats 2 and 3, we have that eighth note rest on the downbeat. We'll hit the ands of those beats, and then an eighth note triplet on beat 4. Okay, the way I arrange this one for the drum set, the eighth notes on beat 1, I'm going to do a tom 2 to tom 1. Both the ands of beats 2 and 3 are in my bass drum. And then for that last triplet on beat 4, I'm going to do snare and crash combo. Okay, for number 4, we're going to have a half note rest to a quarter note rest. It means we won't play anything for the first 3 beats, and then an eighth note triplet all the way on beat 4. This is all snare. Okay, the way I arrange this one, I'm going to put that triplet on beat 4. I'm going to do a flam on my snare, a flam on tom 1 to a flam on tom 2. So all flams. Okay, now is when we combine our beats and fills. So the goal here is to do 4 bars of the beats of the chapter into a fill. You could do your fill, you could do one of my fills for the snare or the drum set, it's all good. But the concept is to do four repetitions of a beat into a 1-bar fill. Okay, for example number 1, this is the quarter note version of the beat into my fill number 1 on the drum set. Okay, now lastly with our combining, this is when you could just make up your own fill in real time or improvisation. Just make it up off the top of your head. The main thing is to play the 4 bars of a beat and then just let it flow. Anything you'd like to play it, but try to keep track of your beats and make it into a 1-bar drum fill. And that's the goal with this one, but you get to create anything you'd like at the moment. Welcome to the study. Today we're going to talk about swung beats. Now we've explored some swung eighth notes. We talked about how to make them swung, and here's a quick little rundown. Here's straight eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If we push back the second note on each beat, the and of the beat, it's going to sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's our swung eighth notes. And if you need some help with your swung eighth notes, just refer to the study. That goes back a few chapters ago. But we relate it also to the triplet, or a grouping of 3. So if you think of it like 1 triplet, 2 triplet. If you take the first and the third note, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, that's another way to get your swung eighth notes going. Or just think of it like pushing back that second note, but that's going to be our end sound to have them swinging. Okay, so all these are going to be swung, and we're also going to learn how to swing our 16th notes today. So this is really fun stuff to talk about. For number 1, we're going to do a quarter note beat. We're going to have a basic concept for beats 1 and 2, just bass drum on beat 1. But we're going to have eighth notes in our bass drum on beat 3, and those will be swung eighth notes. So our bass drum is going to be going boom, crack, boom, boom, crack, as opposed to boom, crack, boom, boom, crack. That would be straight. I'm gonna push back that second bass drum on the and of 3 just a little bit to make it swing. Okay, here's number 1. For number 2, we're gonna put those swung 8th notes in our bass drum on beat 1 this time, keeping everything basic after that. For number 3, we're gonna have swung 8th notes in our bass drum for beats 1 and 3 this time. For number 4, we're going to have a bass drum on the and of 3, and that'll be swung. For number 5, we're going to have 8th notes in our bass drum on beat 1 that are swung. We're going to have that one bass drum on the and of 3, and that'll be swung. For number 6, we're going to have 8th notes on beat 1. We're going to have an 8th note on the and of 2, leading us into a bass drum on the downbeat of 3. Everything swinging. Okay, for number 7, now we're going to have a basic concept for beats 1, 2, and 3, but we'll have a bass drum on the and of 4, leading us back into 1 when we repeat that, and that'll be swung. For number 8, we're going to have 8th notes on beat 1. We're going to have bass drums on the ands of 2 and 3, swinging. Okay, for number 9, we're going to do like a 4 on the floor basic beat concept. So bass drums on all 4 beats, but we're going to add one swung 8th note on the and of 4 at the very end of it. For number 10, now we're going to go into our swung 8th notes with our right hand. So these are going to kind of sound like a shuffle. We're going to keep swung 8th notes in our hi-hat, and we're going to have basic concepts for beats 1 and 2, but we'll have 8th notes in our bass drum on beat 3. Okay, for number 11, we're going to do the swung 8th notes in our bass drum on beat 1. For number 12, we have 8th notes in our bass drum on beats 1 and 3. Swinging. For number 13, we have a bass drum on the and of 3. For number 14, we have 8th notes in our bass drum on beat 1 and an 8th note in our bass drum on beat 3. For number 15, we have 8th notes in our bass drum on beat 1. We have an 8th note in our bass drum on the and of 2, and then basic for beats 3 and 4. For number 16, we have everything basic leading to beat 4, but we'll have a bass drum on the and of 4. For number 17, we have 8th notes in our bass drum on beat 1. We have a bass drum on the and of 2 and a bass drum on the and of 3. Okay, for number 18, this is like a 4 on the floor shuffle concept. So we'll have our bass drum on all 4 beats, swung eighth notes in our hand, in our right hand, and we have snare backbeat on 2 and 4. Okay, for number 19, now we're going to go into swung 16th notes. Okay, so this is a new concept for us. At this point, we've been playing all straight 16th notes like this. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Okay, now if we swing our 16th notes, they're going to sound like this. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. So the E's and the U's get pushed back a little bit. And that's going to give us that rolling swung 16th feel. Okay, so for beat number 19, we're going to do basic swung 16ths for the first 2 beats, and then we're going to put in 8th notes in our bass drum for beat 3. And our right hand will be swinging the whole time on our hi-hat with all those 16th notes. And I also want to point this out. When we're playing 16th notes, the downbeat, I should say, and the and of the beats, those are just going to fall like normal 8th notes. So they're not going to be swung 8th notes within that. We're actually swinging the 16th notes. But the 1 and the and are kind of where they would normally fall. So with our bass drums, just keep that in mind. It's the E's and the U's that have that swung feeling to them. Okay, for number 20, we're going to put the 8th notes in our bass drum on beat 1 this time, and then the rest is basic. For number 21, we're going to put 8th notes in our bass drum for beats 1 and 3 this time. For number 22, we're going to do a basic concept for beats 1 and 2, and we'll have a bass drum on the and of 3. For number 23, we're going to have 8th notes in our bass drum on beat 1, and then we'll have a bass drum on the and of 3. We're going to have 8th notes in our bass drum on beat 1. We'll have an 8th note on the and of beat 2 in our bass drum, and then basic for beats 3 and 4. For number 25, we're going to have basic concept for the first 3 beats, and then we'll put a bass drum on the and of 4. For number 26, we're going to have 8th notes on our bass drum on beat 1. We'll have a bass drum on the and of 2 and on the and of 3. For number 27, this is a 4 on the floor swung 16th note beat. So keeping your swung 16th notes in your right hand, we're going to have bass drum on every beat and our normal backbeat on 2 and 4 with our snare. Okay, for number 28, I gave us an exercise. We're going to start off with the drum fill, and this will be swung, all these 8th notes here, leading into a swung beat, and then we'll do a triplet fill into another swung beat. So everything's swinging here. Let's talk about the fill. It's going to be 2 beats of eighth notes and 2 quarter notes on your snare. And then we'll launch into 4 bars of a quarter note swung beat on your hi-hat. And that's going to have basic for beats 1 and 2 with eighth notes in your bass drum on beat 3, regular backbeat snare on beat 4. Okay, now after 4 times of that beat, we're going to do a triplet eighth note fill across the drum set around the horn. So that's going to go snare, 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 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, floor, floor, floor. And then over to your ride for that same beat 4 times. Okay, for number 29, we're gonna do a similar concept, but this time we're gonna go into a swung eighth note beat with our right hand. So for this fill, we'll start off with 2 quarter notes and then 2 beats of eighth notes. This is all snare, 1 bar fill. Okay, now over to your ride, and we're gonna do swung eighth notes in our right hand, and our beat's gonna be basic for beats 1 and 2, and we'll have the bass drum for 2 eighth notes on beat 3 for this one, regular backbeat on beat 4. Okay, now after 4 times on your ride, we're going to do an around the horn swung eighth note fill, 8 notes on each drum. So that'll be a snare, snare, 1, 1, 2, 2, floor, floor. And then over to your hi-hat for that same beat 4 times. Okay, for the last one, number 30, we're going to do the 16th note version of this. This is going to be swung 16th notes. So your fill is going to have 2 quarter notes for beats 1 and 2, and then swung 16th notes for beats 3 and 4. Okay, over to your hi-hat for 4 bars of your swung 16th note beat. This beat's going to be basic with your bass drum and snare for beat 1 and 2, and then eighth notes in your bass drum on beat 3, normal backbeat on beat 4. So 4 bars of that on your hi-hat, then an around the horn 16th note fill swung. So that's going to go snare, 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 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, floor, 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 floor. Only 1 time into that same beat on your ride for 4 times. All right, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time for chapter 16. Cheers.